Funny little joke I told to myself. Let me know if you can hear me. Gonna wait a few minutes. Oh no, I don't want me on there. Here we go. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Miss Vicki. That's not the right. Where is the video? Hey, Joy. Thank you. Watercolor review. I got to get on the right live. I don't want show and tell. I want review. There we are. Hey, Linda. Okay. I hope the little girl's okay. I'm going to take a look at this watercolor today. And for some reason, the wireless thing was kind of cranky, so I don't have a camera on the palette. Let's see if I can get closer. Push that up a little bit. You see some of it. Turn it that way. Sorry for the shadows. Still trying to get lighting correct. And then the minute you've got it correct, it'll change on you. I don't need the lizard. I got my 100% bird's eye, all natural cotton paper. We'll wait a few more minutes. This is just a pop-up. I said in the description that it's always a good idea to stop before you think the painting is finished and leave it to dry overnight or a week or whatnot. In oil paint, wait until it is completely dry, which may be 2 or 3 days. And then put it back up on your easel and something. Oh, get off of there. You cannot live there. Good thing it's good paper. I knew there was something on there. It'll be okay. I can see through it. Oh man, be careful, Vicki. Okay. Anyway, it needs a resting time, and if you can, if you're seriously challenged by still fiddling. If you're still challenged by the way it looks, turn it to the wall and don't even look at it. Hey, Wendy. Glad y'all came back today. I cleaned off my encaustic tray right in front of me. So it's just got a few things over there that need to be put away, and then I can pile it up again. I sorted a lot of jelly papers and painty papers and stuff like that. And have them pretty much put away or ready to put away. So I feel pretty good about that. The secret to this little painting is I always take my paintings in and put them on the TV cabinet thingy and leave them. And when Randy comes in, a lot of times it will catch him out of the corner of his eye. And he has an excellent eye. He's had some of the same training I've had. And he'll go, whoa. So I know I've got a pretty good one. He told me not to touch this one. But you see how I listened to him. Where I put the gouache on yesterday, I'm going to very carefully ease into that and see if I can improve anything on this. And I'm missing my source photo. I've got to have that. I wonder why that's not showing. Oh, maybe that would be the reason. Yeah, that would be the reason. I didn't do screen share. That's, gee, Anthony, I'm learning this stuff. It takes a while to get it cemented in your brain so that you perform the same steps over and over. Okay, here it is. Source picture coming up. There we go. So I've gotten a bigger synthetic. This is the Low Cornell 7020 Ultra Round. I would imagine that there are some better synthetics out now. This is 20-year-old or more brush design, but I have them, so I'm going to use them. First thing I'm going to do, now let that gouache set overnight. Damp brush. I'm going to come in and soften that line. We do this a lot in oil painting to make a glow around a particular area that we want to be soft. We talked yesterday about this being soft. It kind of creates a hazy glow. Not too much, or you'll take off you'll dissolve the underlayer, and it won't be white anymore. It's okay if it does a little, because that's the glow that we want. It's always amazing to me the what you learn in one medium can translate to another. Damp brush. We don't want a lot of water. New Wendy, I only use natural hairbrushes. Unless I'm doing something that's going to put stress on the brushes, like scrubbing or lifting or doing anything like that. There are also times when I like a synthetic because it doesn't hold a lot of water and your natural hairbrushes do. So sometimes you don't want that. You want just a little bit more control. And I've got two heavy things on this painting, so I'll try not to move it. So that's why you're seeing shadows, and that's too wet. These synthetic brushes are mine. I've had for 20 years. I haven't done watercolor for 20 years. I mean, I've done oil and soft pastel and everything else. So it hasn't been a straight 20 years. But they've lasted really well, and I did not treat them well in the beginning because nobody taught me. Okie doke. I have some, let me take these out now. I have some squirrel hair. The brand is Art Secret, and I got these on AliExpress in China. They came in a week or so, and they were $5 to $12 a piece. And the the similar handmade Isabey brush is $75. So I got several of the inexpensive ones straight from China. And I'm not saying that Isabey is not handmade, but here's the Isabey. I don't know that much about brush design or the chemistry of brushes. Of course, you can tell there's a little more hair in this. This one is a size 6. And the one in my hand says a 4. So that would account for some of the, and that's an 8. You can't rely on sizes of these things. And here's a Princeton. This is a Neptune, size 4. And it is a blend. I think it's a blend. You can look it up. It's either 100% synthetic or has a little bit of squirrel hair in it. But it operates a lot like a real hair quill. So this is a good one to check out. And here's a size 2. And here's the silver brush Atelier in a size 00. And this was on sale, and I think it was around $15, $16. So there's my natural brush quills. And then I have Kolinsky Sables. This is the Jean Haynes collection from Rosemary Brushes. They're in England. Highly, highly recommend these brushes. They're less expensive than some of their counterparts. And the name on the handle means that she got to say, let's see, this is a 10 and a 12. Here's my 10. 10 Charles, 10 Jean. That's what they look like when they're dry. They look like they're just a ratty old camel's hair brush until you get that hair wet. I'm not going to soak it all the way because I wasn't going to use it today. See how that just works? Now, this is a tin by Art Express, and I believe that those are manufactured by Da Vinci. I'm not sure. But this has Charles Reed's name on it. And so that means that Charles prefers a longer body than Jean does for a similar size round. And it looks like Jean Haynes might be just a little fatter in the middle over his. So that's what they do if they get their name on it. They get to specify the particulars of the brush. I never let my brushes dry standing straight up. I always dry them laying down because you don't want the water to soak into the ferrule. Okay. Hey, Rosemary. Hi, Kathy. Violet. Hello. I told y'all I might drop in. Haven't done anything yet, but talk a little bit about brushes and softening the gouache that I put on yesterday. Randy didn't think I needed any touch-ups on this, but I did, so we're doing it. So there. And I wet that up just a hair. Now I'm going to sneak up on this because it's so easy to go too far. And I realized I had some good orange on my plate, on my palette from last week's projects. It might be nice to ease into this one. Because I don't want them to all look the same color. Now, every time I make a mark from here on out, I'm going to soften it, whether I'm through with it or not. And I want to see if I can clean this up just a hair. No, I think it's on there. That little dark edge. Let me get a tissue. I have a tissue right here. No, I don't. No, I didn't get any. Okay, so I got to beware of that line there to make it not quite so obvious. I'm using a pipette to wet my pans because the sprayer just doesn't activate them enough for me. So it's pink down in here and a little bit orangey up in here. Now I have to be real careful on this gouache, because if I liquefy the gouache too much, then I will liquefy the paint underneath it, and I'll have that brown issue to deal with again. I'm going to make my picture a little bit larger so I can see it. I'm working on that flower, so Let me come in there. Not interested in the wall at this moment. Now I've lost my petal look there. Now I've told y'all that I am realistic, and this is where it comes in. Oh, that's more of a peony than a rose petal. What are you doing? Notice I switched back to my, that's not going to come up. Switch back to my synthetic for this. Best way to do this is to put water on it and then leave it alone for a few minutes to soak up what it can, or liquefy what it can, I should say. Hey, Joe. Yeah, they are expensive, but a natural hair watercolor brush will last you 15, 20 years easy. And if you take good care of them, they can last you a long, long time. Different mindset than oil painting brushes or acrylic brushes. You can buy the cheapest ones there are and throw them away in 2 months. I've used some oil brushes that I threw away after one session, or moved over to my pastel palette where I use old brushes there. But I highly recommend the Neptune. Did you check on prices for that? They are reasonably priced. I'm leaving that one a little bit of a hard edge, just to make sure that we know that that's on top. Soften that just a little. So there, and then these petals. It's really fun to think you can complete a painting in 2 hours. But those are really almost like a plein air study. And to be a painting as good as it can be usually requires 2 or 3 sessions. So I would call yesterday's session a block-in. Yeah, I could have quit, but I want to see if I can improve it. Okay, so that would be the top of that petal. Instead of adding water to blend that out, I'm using a dry brush to pick up. And then to make that white stand out on the edge of that petal, I'm coming back in with a little darker color. Now it's already beginning to look more lotusy than silver, black velvet are good. Oh, they did. I've been real careful with mine. So if I were you, I would treat the silver like I'm treating these Kolinskis. Okay. Try the Neptune. I was pleasantly surprised. Color in that. Let's get a little more yellow. I mean orange. Just want a hint of color. And then right here. Okay, so that comes down here. I just want it to resemble more of a lotus than a orange, than a rose. I'm not getting realistic in that it's going to look photorealistic. Although I do enjoy that from time to time. Okay. Now the center of that flower is probably down in here. Use that one. And then I've got another one just about like it right here. Put it on, leave it on. Escudo Reserva. Is that what I showed you? The Isaby Pedigree. Petit Gris 6234. Here's an Escoda TAJMIR. It's Kolinsky, but I sure thought that had a little bit of synthetic in it. And there is an Escoda that I don't like use it just a little bit and the hairs on the brush just kind of splayed. I don't see it. And if you ask for advice, you will get 50 million different responses. I don't see it right here. It's the same with watercolor paint. I am a proponent of a very, very limited palette for beginners. Because if you have a full palette with 14 oranges in it that are so close together, the human eye can't really tell them apart, but they're different brands. And somebody said it was their favorite. All you're going to do is confuse yourself. And if you can learn to deal with 6 colors, no black, no white, 2 blues, 2 reds, 2 yellows, a warm and cool of each one. And if you have a question about that, DM me and I'll just tell you now. Some of you know it already, but I use in my oil paint, any of my art, if I want to study color a little bit, I will revert to my split complementary palette, and particularly in my oil painting. So a warm yellow would be one that tends toward orange. It has a little orangey in it. A cool yellow is one that has a little bit of a greenish cast. So that would be your cool. And look at a color wheel if you have a question. You can find them online. In red, a warm red is a red that tends toward orange. And that would be like a cadmium red or a red like that. Whoops. And your cool red is typically alizarin crimson or carmine. I pretty much use those interchangeably. A couple of years back, it became known that the original alizarin crimson was fugitive. And so lots of folks switched to carmine. And then permanent alizarin crimson was developed. I'm not sure of the timeline. Yeah. Okay, and then your warm and cool blue. It's real funny because depending on who you look at, ultramarine blue can go either way. Some people say it's warm because it tends toward red, and some people say it's cool because it tends toward purple. So all of that really is to it's just stuff that you need to learn about color. And the other blue, warm blue that I like to use is cerulean. So the blues are a little bit more difficult. Now the kicker is, there's always a kicker. The kicker is depending on what colors you have them with can affect the textbook variety that I just gave you. of identification. Typically, Joe, it has to do with the granulation. Some ultramarine blues are not as granulating as others, and sometimes you want that color, but you don't want the texture. So there's, in my mind, there's very little difference because I like granulation. So it's never been a big issue for me. Sometimes every manufacturer has different formulas. And sometimes you'll like one ultramarine blue, say by Da Vinci or M. Graham, and you don't like the one by Schminke. Again, I'm not that picky. Now that's looking a little better through there. Now this one, a little better. We'll see. And I always hesitate to be too opinionated about that stuff because, well, and the same goes for y'all. Take a look at how long somebody's been painting. And take a look at their work before you take their opinion as gospel. Because there are some people who say, oh, that's not a good paper. I didn't like it at all. Well, she hadn't been painting enough to know whether she likes it or not. And another thing is that I can take any kind of paper and change my technique to match the paper. So to say that the paper isn't any good kind of isn't fair to the paper. It's good for what it was intended for. Does that make sense? See right there, I got into the brownish color that I was covering up. And that's just a real light coat of the gouache. So in order to pull this off, to get away from the rosy look, I'm going to come in with a few more carving out a little bit of this flower, sculpting it, if you will. And if you won't, well, better. Another note about gouache. I've told you that I use it with almost a dry brush. That's my preference. Because if you use it with a wet brush and a lot of water, you're making it transparent again, and you're not ruining, bad word. You're changing it into watercolor. So you might as well just work with watercolor. The other thing about it is on the flip side of that, what I'm doing right now to get these petals looking right, got to be careful and not get it too thick or it'll crack. Okay, so we're doing pretty good up here. I want that white to show up. I've got to darken around it. Okay, that's my. Put it on, take it off. Kind of drawing myself a roadmap. You're doing fine, Wendy, with your talking. You speak English better than I speak anything else. Yeah, I need that right there because I need it to look like the center's here. This is really a favorite part. And it also, I hope, teaches you guys that this is a necessary part of painting. Not everybody wants to paint for this reason. Oops. Way to take care of it there. Okay, so I need a darker. Oops. Oh, that's what I've already got right there. Remember that I said, and this is to me as well, the glow that you see in that photo is because it is backlit. The photo is backlit. And you cannot achieve that very easily. Someone better than me might, but I still think it's better to paint from your screen than to print a bunch of pictures. I've got some white there. And a whole lot of white right here. I did a pretty good job saving my whites yesterday. That's a challenge for every watercolorist. Okay, that needs just a hair. Also, doing it this way, it would never, this painting would never be accepted into one of the national watercolor societies because they want 100% traditional watercolor. And some of the ones in England are that way as well. So if you're going to enter in competition, you do have to be aware of the rules. And this under here, under there, I'm going to use this orange. It's a white flower, but it's picking up. Thank you, Joe. Yeah, I have made some before. And Wendy is exactly right. There is a chemistry involved in the grinding of the original pigment. For example, gouache pigments are larger. Consider the pigment, the little powder that you're grinding up to make paint. Consider each one of those little granules of something to be a piece of a rock. And each one of those, like a rock, is not going to let the light through it. And so if they grind that, they want gouache to be opaque. So if they want to grind the pigment of the gouache larger granules, then you'll get more of an opaque look. And some of those pigments drop. By that I mean they're the first to disappear into the grain of the paper. What's this guy doing? He's an awful lot of. So for example, on the Daniel Smith Permatex, they've got a couple of designer colors that several people came along and said, oh, I can make those. It's so and so and so and so and so and so. Well, yeah, it is, but Daniel Smith prepared those three pigments to play together so that one would drop into the paper first and leaving the other two to mix on top of the paper. So you get a full effect of the three colors. They're great. I love them. One of them is Moon Glow, which it broke my heart to find out that it wasn't totally permanent or light fast. Another one is Shadow Violet. Another one is one of the greens, Undersea Green maybe. And if you look on the label, they tell you what's in them. Now this little area right here, as I'm looking at it closer, like I did yesterday, or when I was just really trying to get it blocked in, those areas appear to be. I'm in the upper. I'm right here, and it's the petal just lower to the left of that tulip. This appears to be curling back on itself, the petal curling back on itself. And if so, it will have some dark up in there. Creating a shadow where that leaf or petal curves over itself. And so then I need some pink. From the next flower to enhance the white. Do this one. Wax on, wax off. Lighter stuff in there is still darker than this. You spend more time looking at your painting or your source than you do anything else. And if I want to get really ticky, I can say that I brought that down too much. And I've got a cobalt blue right here. Move. I mix just a little bit with that hot pink. That'll give me a nice, rich, dark. And I am getting real ticky here. Just a little bit on the outside of that flower. Okay, that's enough fiddling right there. So that's dark, and this is dark. The rest of it's fairly pastel. Then now we go up to this flower. Let's see what y'all say. Yeah, the anytime you see a color that has a vanity name, that's what I call them. Meaning sky blue or river green or something like that. Those are colors that are mixed in the factory. Where and this is a real good way to tell your artist quality from your other paint. When you're dealing with artist quality paints, they are named for the chemistry pigment that's in them. For example, cadmium red. Every dealer of an artist quality paint will use that cadmium red, even though they have different formulas for how big the granules are and all that. I'm just doing a little cleanup in here. Now the star of our show, let's come on around though. And give that petal just a little bit of, and I'm not sure where that sucker belongs, to be quite honest with you. Right in there, I imagine. So that would bring another part of that flower up here. Another petal. Queen Rose. One of these is Lizard and Crimson. And I want a little bit of Lizard and Crimson mixed with that rose. Got it thinned down a little bit too much. Maybe, I don't want to know. bear face. I see something looks like a shark on this area right here. See his eyes right here and kind of got his mouth open. Thanks, Joe. I'm trying to keep up with chat too. Okay, now I kind of made that into a little bit more lavendery look back here. Didn't get much. I keep looking at the picture on y'all's screen. I want to do a little bit of scrubbing. Little bit. The advantage to having an extremely detailed drawing before you start is that the guesswork is taken out of it. But for me, when the guesswork is taken out of it, I'm bored. That's like doing 3 or 4 studies. You know, small paintings of a subject before you ever paint the real one. That's dangerous because I get bored. I did that with a commission. Oh, when was it? 17 right there. Christmas of, not this last Christmas, but the one before. And I did paint a small study. And I would have been just as good off painting it from scratch, I think. I love diddling. All right, check and see what you guys are talking about. Well, when I got my grown-up glasses with the 3 levels, I couldn't see a computer screen anywhere. So then I decided to, I remembered that I had some readers that were corrected astigmatism, and hallelujah, it fixed it. I can now see 18 inches away. Okay, back for me to get to work. I'm diddling. That has to be the star, and so I gotta get the star of our show. I got to remember that all the other flowers are faded. And this is the only one that's in focus. If I were to enter this in a show, I would say that it was water media. Okay, now there's a hot pink right there. Okay, now to make that, I can't get the glow, but I can make it a little bit darker. And you can only go so white. Who was it, Violet? Was it you in the last stream that said you paint in oil and you're just in crafts to have fun? Making that curve a little bit. Really have a few too many petals on that back side. Lighten a little bit of that. Got a little bit of white on my brush. Blending that just a little bit. Seeing if there's anything else that will help that. A little bit of whitewash thinly right there to give that just a little bit of blending in. All right, I'm moving on. Have a drink of water. Controlling the amount of water is a big deal. Now this one back here, wait a minute, I'm not seeing it all. Do that over here. That's where I am right now. I completely boogered that one up, but it doesn't matter because there's not going to be anybody but you guys who are going to see the original. So we're just going to make the best of it. Now, if that doesn't soak in all the way, it will help. And then this one, where do I want to go? This is white, but I'm going to tone it just a bit. And this up here is stark white. And I'm not going to do just a whole lot to this. And this one down here, I'm pretty much going to leave. Because I can. If I'm going to do that, then I need to darken here. Hope our friends are still in electricity. Over on the East Coast. I'm mixing a little bit of pink with the gouache on my brush. Chinese white works too, by the way. I'm not real sure that I know the difference. But I do silver point as well, silver point drawing. And Chinese white is a good ground for that. So if y'all ever have any requests, let me know. I'm just hooked on watercolor right now, which, you know, I enjoy a lot. I'm just going to close off some of that because it's not in the light over here. So many things I could spend more time with and improve. You always improve, I don't care what you're doing. And so many things I enjoy. Oh, good. Thanks, Linda. Now I need to put this away and get the green, which I just wet a few minutes ago. I did a start on those yesterday. This area. Has some leafises. And you always want variation in your greens. Don't forget that. If you ever look outside at the number of greens it takes to do a landscape, I'm gonna let that dry just a minute, and then I'm gonna come in and glaze over the top of that with a little darker color. Now, I need a darker color. Time to put some colors away. Yeah, the old masters a lot of times did silver point on a toned ground, and a lot of them used just a real faint watercolor tint, like the old photos that you um, that the Peerless watercolors were designed for. In fact, I've got a good silver point board on my on my Pinterest page. I can't think of the guy's name, but I've got some on there where they do that. And I haven't, but I want to. And that line needs to be soft. Have you done silver point, Linda? Where are you, Azure? I don't know if you can see what I'm doing. You can't. This is that reddish piemontite Daniel Smith, and I'm just mixing some of those greens that I had on my plate from last week, because why? Green and red will tend to gray each other out, and I wanted a dark. Are you out of the danger zone, Asher? I'm keeping mindful of my glow. Doing a little dry brushing down here just for interest. I think it'd be real hard to fear the hurricane coming and not knowing how it was going to affect you. We get tornadoes, but at most we're in that fight or flight feeling for 30, 40 minutes. I mean, I get the fight or flight thing when I watch real hurricane footage coming in. Ooh, Florida's a little bit too hot and humid for me. Y'all have different building codes and everything than we do. Now that will not stay that stark. That is that windowsill, sort of. All right, then we have kind of a greenish gray. I'm having fun, guys. I hope y'all are. Put that right in here. And then above that is a bluish line. Watching the light and how it changes whites in particular. is interesting. Start looking around you when you're just sitting and watching TV or you're sitting out on the porch. Look at something that you know is white painted, like a column, a porch column. Look at that and see how many colors you can identify, because they're there. They're there. Like this area right in here is probably all painted white. See how this faded? I'm going to leave it because it kind of says enough about what we're looking at. All right, now said we were going to glaze the area over here with a little yellowish. It's a warm color, so let's get a little bit of this. And let's mix that with the blue. Again, contrast. I think I want a little bit of yellow. There we go. Maybe. A little more blue. I'm looking for something kind of taupey, and I had just a little too much yellow. And dirty water could have done it. All right, now I'm going to come in. Now I can dilute that or help it kind of become the color I wanted it to be. And then I think just for add a little bit more green. Could do just a hair more, just so those leaves don't look so lonely. All right, I didn't do anything here. And that needs to be softened. So does that. Windowsill or whatever it is. Are y'all learning from how I mix colors on this plate? Okay, move that out of the way. Oh my goodness. Trying to hold it. still. Move all that up there. Let's see if I can. I'm calling it quits. Yeah, Linda Westland are about as much in the middle of the United States as you can get. Yeah, Christy, sometimes I have to move it around so I can see it. And I've got all this little mouse poop stuff going on up here. Oh well, that's how you tell it's an original. Silver point. Here's one I tried to do on a sanded surface for pastels, and it didn't work very well at all. You can't see the silver. It's a really coarse board. You know what? I've got some others. Let me move that. Oh, let me think. Hold on a minute. Let me see if I can find real quick. I'll be right back, guys. Nope. One more quick place I could look. I found it. Now I'll show you some of my better ones. This is a date book that the Arkansas Artists Group put together. And it was so good I hated to throw it away. So what I did was on the calendar page, I kept the art pages. Move that up just a hair. I kept the art pages and then painted the calendar pages with either chalk paint or gesso and just started practicing, just doing whatever came to my mind. And here's a silver point. See how the silver shines? You know what? I think this was the one. I was sitting outside one day and there were knotholes all in the fence, and every time I looked at one, I saw a face. So I took a bunch of pictures, and I think that may be what she was inspired by. Okay, so silver point here. Here's a silver point on yellow. So just playing a watercolor from when we were in Prague. Another silver point. Now silver tarnishes, so it's one of the favorite. I'm not seeing a whole lot of shininess on her. I may not have had that much on there. Another watercolor from Prague. This is a silver point. This is interesting. I put down a piece of scrapbook paper, and I believe then I put some white where her face would be. So that's silver point. It's so faint you can barely see it, but subtle. Here's a silver point on black. And that's silver point and gold point. I used a gold wire in the hair, in the scarf. Isn't that cool? Oh, sure, you bet. So here's the black. It won't work on plain paper unless you coat it with something that's got tooth. So chalk paint has tooth, gesso has tooth, Chinese white watercolor. Because this actually, the paper or the coating on the paper has to actually scratch off, has to have enough texture that the silver will leave a residue. That's mysterious. This was a little tutorial on brusho that I did. So this book just has a little bit of everything in it. Another silver point. Practice my drawing, my faces. Another one. This book has a lot in it, doesn't it? Come on. There. Another one. Another one. I think that's squash. I'm not real sure. I got blank pages. And then I just started, oops. Oh, that was just a play of, was comparing two things. I'm not real sure what I was comparing. But I like this little book. There's more. Be patient. These are ready to go. This is a little tool called, I can't remember. It's a USB pencil that does a dot pattern like stippling. And you can see the little bitty dots. Come on, you can focus. It's coming in now. I need to get that out too. Oh boy, this was when I was doing a lot of doodling, and I thought, wow, that'd be cool to do in silver point, but it's not, because to doodle, to get a black enough line, you have to go over and over and over these lines several times. I mean, it looks pretty, but I wouldn't do it again. Another black page, a couple more blacks, a taupe. These are chalk paints they're made by Plaid for Waverly, and they work really well as a silver point ground. the original ground is an exotic recipe of rabbit's glue. I'll do that. You want me to do it tomorrow? I'm going to make you look at the rest of it. No, that was a silver point. Trying to do, I'm not sure what I was trying to do. Here's another silver point doodle. Okay, that's it. Now, you got to see something else. I could hold it for tomorrow, but I'm not gonna. I don't know what that was. Linda, have you seen these? I decided that it would be fun to do this. So I painted 3 or 4 coats of that chalk paint on here. And that's the only chalk paint I found that works. So I'd sit around at night and do these before the world went crazy. And that one hung around the studio long enough that it got some paint on it. Statues make wonderful models. I can't tell you how many faces and heads I've done to try to get to the point where I kind of know I'm going to get the eyes in the right spot. Different color here. This is a bluish gray tone. Mona Lisa. There. You can use watercolor, yeah, on top of it. And the only problem with this was that they really need to be on a foam core and framed on a mat, because I noticed that one of them was trying to pop off. Well, it might be because that card got kind of ripped. Oh well. Anyway, so you got to be careful what you ask for. Here's one that I didn't finish. Yeah, you can tint them with watercolor. I'm gonna, it doesn't matter. See? It's very light. That's how they used to tint old photographs in the 1890s to 1930s and 40s. That's when Peerless watercolors were designed. Okay, what do y'all want to see tomorrow? A face? Black ace. That one. Yeah, that's a little Indian girl. Bye, Wendy. You need to get to bed if we're going to do something again tomorrow. All right. I will do a demo in this book tomorrow because I've already got the prep on those pages. And we'll figure out how we're going to rig the light so you can see it. And I think this painting is done. I'm declaring victory over it. So, good day. Thanks for showing up. I love you guys. Yeah, we had a friend we met on Facebook or internet, you know, whatever. And she lived an hour in the other direction, so we met at my house. And we had art days, and I gave them both a soft pastel lesson, and it was fun. We had a ball. No, the other black ace. There is another black ace. Did I lose it already? No. Oh, that one. I missed it. Yeah, she's mysterious. Alrighty. I had fun. Thank y'all for coming by. And we will do something fun tomorrow. Over and out.